Hi, this is Sue Easton. I wanted to share some ideas with you about blended classes. In 1998, I went back to school to get my PhD, and as a student, I enrolled in several classes that were blended or online, and mainly with the intention of trying to figure out what was this new concept that people were talking about and having a bias against it. I was pleasantly surprised at how much I enjoyed it as a student, that I could actually control the times when I would spend in my class material. I could expand and apply things more directly to what I was interested in. And as a result, I wrote my dissertation on the role of the online facilitator. For the last 10 years here at Rollins, I've taught blended classes every semester. And I'm excited that a group of you are now moving into that direction, and I'll have other colleagues to work with and to learn from. I wanted to share a few things in terms of what were the things that I find most rewarding, what are some of my challenges, and then leave you with an additional thought. Some of the things I like best about blended learning is that it fits my style, it fits my pedagogy. I believe that shifting the content and responsibility to the student fits the adult learning principles that I think are very effective. I like the role that I get to play of being a facilitator, of establishing a good design, good material, good content, giving the students the opportunity to digest that, and then giving them feedback through the things that I ask them to do as they learn or move through the material. I also think it uses my strength as a facilitator and collaborator and focuses more on the content rather than on me. It isn't as much about my storytelling or my examples as it is getting them to think about their own examples. Another thing that I like about it personally is that it balances the intensity of the teaching time. One of the things I like least about face-to-face classes is when students rush in before class with a bunch of questions, or during the break, you're being mobbed, or after class when you're trying to get to your next class. And what I find is that I'm able to respond to students' questions and issues in the moment through email, through various techniques that I use online, and answer any questions that they might have. So when they come to class, it's not with questions about what they need to do or the assignments, but it's more about, okay, so what's next? Some of the things that I like least or I find most challenging is that time issue is extended for me. I basically find myself working on my classes every day, including weekends. So I'm responding to students, I'm giving students feedback, and I'm spending a lot of time writing or sending audio files to them. And that feedback is more one-on-one. I'm not able to stand up in front of the class and say, looks like a bunch of you missed this concept. Instead, it's very individualized and very personalized. So there's a lot of work in developing each student individually. I actually get to know my students better in my blended classes than I do in my face-to-face classes, where a few people sometimes dominate the discussion, or some people don't speak at all. I also find that I have sometimes a sense of isolation when I'm teaching in a blended class. When it's going really well, for example, in a recent class, I wasn't hearing from anybody all week, which was unusual. But when I ran into some of them on campus, I found that they were very engaged, working in groups. They were very excited about what they were doing, but I wasn't a part of it. So sometimes that sense of isolation makes you feel a little left out, and the ego stroking doesn't happen. And I find a lot of times in my face-to-face classes, my evaluations talk about how much they liked me. And in my blended classes, they talk about how much they liked the course. So there's a little shifting with that as well. One of the closing comments for me is that I think it's very important to work on the design end of the class, and not to think about it as just writing some courses where you don't have to meet with the kids and they're virtual. But it's to really focus on the design of student to content, student to self through reflection, teacher to student through the feedback that you give, and student to student work where you've got the peer and the cohesion of the community that you're building in the groups that you're doing. So I think that's a really important aspect of it. I look forward to talking to you in person. If we can work together after this is over and learn from each other, I'm excited about that as well. So I wish you the best and hope that you enjoy the remainder of your seminar.